Good afternoon, everyone. It's episode 647 of Office Hours, and I have two of my mentors in the house. There's no shortage of wisdom today with Blaine Bartlett, BlaineBartlett.com, and Rhett Powers, the Accountability Inc. brother of mine. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for co-hosting Office Hours with me.
Always.
Well, yeah, man. We're this is going to be great. I am in Las Vegas. I'm speaking at the Super Summit here, and always squeeze in a quick hour of power. No pun intended, Rhett Power. But we have Mark waiting in the wings. We might as well get right out to it. He's the CEO at iFranchise Group, and there's a lot of action in the franchise world. I just saw Magic Johnson's list of franchises that he owns, but Mark Siebert has been helping people franchise their business, and he has created the guide to employing the greatest growth strategy ever in franchising. Welcome, Mark, to Office Hours.
Well, thank you, David. Thanks for having me.
Well, there's a lot of opportunities. I've coached a lot of young and old entrepreneurs in the franchising business, and what makes franchising so attractive is, to me, that somebody's already paid the dummy tax. So you've increased your statistical success by somebody else already paying the dummy tax at whatever business it is. What are the lessons that people learn in franchising? Because it seems like such an obvious choice. Do I want to start my own business and pay the dummy tax, or should I just invest in a business that's already working?
That's a great point, David. I think that one of the things that people are paying for is that intellectual property. People want to avoid the hard lessons that get learned along the way when you're sort of stumbling your way through growing a business. And that's what people pay for when they're buying a franchise. They're paying for the learning curve that they don't have to go through. And what we do is we help companies that have gone through that learning curve to put together businesses that can sell franchises to people out there in the community who want to buy franchises. We help them to get established as franchisors.
You know, one of the things that you've got that we wanted to talk about a little bit here, and it's a promotional thing for you, Mark, as well, but you've got a book that came out, about seven years ago that I want to touch on here. Franchise Your Business, a guide to employing the greatest growth strategy ever. I mean, just the greatest growth strategy ever. There's a big promise embedded in that. What is in the time that we've got here? It's very truncated, but what's the secret sauce there? What is the greatest strategy? And then obviously the devil's in the details here in terms of execution. But what is that greatest strategy?
Well, in franchising, essentially what you're doing is you're using other people's time, other people's money, other people's efforts, and other people's motivation to grow your businesses. So if I've got, for example, David said he was out in Las Vegas. One of our clients out there was a company called Nothing Bundt Cakes. It was a 1-unit location that served some delicious bundt cakes. It was 2 young women put this together. They started this in their kitchens, and they decided they wanted to ultimately franchise this business that grew into essentially a storefront, and then ultimately they decided to franchise. They grew that through franchising, sold 450 locations. They just recently sold it to public equity, or to private equity rather, and they sold it for, I don't think I'm at liberty to say how much they sold it for, but they sold it for a huge multiple and made many hundreds of millions of dollars selling it because they were able to grow using other people's money. People invested in that business. Another company from out in that neck of the woods, Massage Envy, another client of ours. They came to us, they had 1 unit in operation. Today they've got 1,600 locations. These locations were built with other people investing in those locations, putting their time in, their hard work in to grow the business. But the founder, John Leonisio, who actually wrote the foreword to my book, is somebody who said, who grew that business by selling other people on his intellectual property, his branding, his marketing and letting them pay him for that privilege.
Good.
Wow. That's remarkable. I got to just ask, what is hot right now? Like, what do you love that's out there?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
You know, anything that is sort of hot at the consumer level is going to always be hot from franchise standpoint. But some of the things that are particularly hot from franchise standpoint are areas that have not been done as much in the past. So historically, you've not seen a lot of medical franchising, and you're seeing a lot more in terms of medical franchising now. People are getting into it. They're finally, medical professionals are starting to realize that they now can start to franchise in that industry, although it's a little bit more difficult. And we've actually built a sort of specialty practice around actually franchising medical-based franchise companies. A company that we just recently did is a company called QC Kinetics. They've sold 450 franchises doing rejuvenation medicine. And it's been very, very successful in terms of their initial growth. But anything that you look at that, where if you see a consumer trend, so you see that bubble tea is doing well, bubble tea is going to be out there and they're franchising. They're selling a lot of franchises now. Anything that so food service is always going to be an area where you see a lot of franchising, a lot of success in franchising. And like anything, the trends that sort of die and go away, maybe the sandwich trend is not, fast food sandwiches are not as prevalent today as they once were, but you're seeing other things that are more healthy dining maybe starting to replace them. And when those units are successful, then those units are going to be what replaces them in the marketplace. Bottom line is, it's about, can the business model itself make money for the franchisee? Can the franchisee get a better return on their investment than they would if they were to jump into the stock market and just get a job somewhere? And if they can, then your business model might be ready to franchise.
And just to bring it home, is there an ideal place that a time to invest in a franchise? I imagine you don't want to be the first franchisee. That seems to be a little bit more risky. But as you have been involved in so many franchises that gets to 100 or 400 or 1,400, have you determined, is there a safe spot that provides a greater return where somebody should look at, determined upon the category, a safer spot with greater return when to invest in a franchise?
I think that you hit the nail on the head with the question, actually, David, because it's really a risk return kind of equation that you're looking at. Some of the businesses that you would get into earlier might be great investment opportunities, but it's like buying into a high-flying stock. It's got a little greater level of risk because it is a little bit earlier. But if you're looking at something that is maybe newer and a hotter trend, you've got your opportunity to get in early, or you can wait and maybe you're going to lose out on that territory. If you want something that's a little bit safer, you wait and see how well established it is. And as it gets to be better and better established, your anticipated returns are going to go down because there'll probably be more competitors in that space as other people have joined them. So when Massage Envy got started, they were the only people that were selling franchise in that space. And today you've got Ann & Stone, you've got 3 or 4 other major competitors that are out there in that space. And it's maybe a little bit more difficult of a consumer market than it was when people first joined in.
Well, I've learned a lot today, especially about leveraging an investment as a franchisee in understanding how we can utilize other people's money to build our brand and create greater opportunity for us, even at the stage of having one storefront. There's nobody that's been around longer and has more expertise. He's written the book on franchising your business. He can help teach you the greatest growth strategy ever, as Blaine has indicated to us. Check out Mark Siebert. He will help you get to where you want to be or better. The iFranchise Group, they're here to support you with over 40 years of experience. Mark, promise us you'll come back. Thank you for all the great information and insight.
It'd be my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. It's MBA in a day here at Office Hours, and I got my two favorite professors, Professor Rhett Powers and Professor Blaine Bartlett. Anita is waiting in the wings. Anita Nowak is here. She is the founder and chief empathy officer of Purposeful Empathy by Design. Welcome, Anita.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. And Rhett, you asked a very powerful question. I hope I get the opportunity to answer what's hot in my world too.
Well, why don't we start there? I'm a secret guy. Let's start. So empathy is something I live by, and instituting a perspective of forgiveness into my life is different than sympathy. But what's hot in the world of purposeful empathy?
Empathic leadership, baby. It's
probably Quebec, Canada.
There you go.
It's not a fad, guys. It's true. I mean, the stats now post-COVID have made the business case for empathy in the workplace, either for leadership or workplace culture. And just the stat I'll open with is that 84% of CEOs know that it matters to the business. They know it matters to the bottom line, but 7 out of 10 still fear showing empathy in the workplace because they feel they're going to be less respected. We got to dispel that myth. We've got to let go because there's just so much evidence that everybody is hungry for empathic leadership and empathic workplace culture. And, you mentioned you live by it. When you live by the ethos of being kind to others and seeing empathy as a trait that you want to grow in your life, the benefit is that it comes back to you. Not only physiologically, but there's the neuroscience that proves it too. When we're in an empathic embrace, if I'm feeling emotionally connected to any of you, guess what happens in my brain? The pleasure and reward centers of our brain light up, just like when we're on psychedelics or if we're having a good piece of chocolate cake. So yes, that's what's hot.
A bundt cake. Or a bundt cake.
Or bundt cake, yes. Yeah, David and I wrote this book, Compassionate Capitalism, that you see over my shoulder here. The idea of compassion is, basically grounded in the experience of connection. Yep. And how do you generate connection? I mean, that's a conversation I have with leaders all the time. How do you actually generate connection in the workforce such that they actually, the folks that you're working with, not just your employees, but others want to actually, how do they feel about themselves? I guess is where I'm going. How do they feel about themselves when they're in your presence? Do they feel seen, heard? Do they feel as if they are uplifted, or at least they have the opportunity to uplift? And some of the leaders that I've spoken with around this notion of empathic leadership, to your point, they're going, how do I, they confuse it with sympathy. They confuse it with vulnerability in a negative context. So how do you actually square that circle with your folks?
Great question. Okay, so let's start with these words that often get conflated.
Yeah.
So you've got pity, sympathy, compassion, and empathy. And I actually put them on a continuum. On the pity side of the equation, there's power asymmetry embedded in the relationship. So when you pity somebody, oh, you poor you look down on them with disdain and judgment. Now, as you make your way across the continuum to empathy, I define it as the innate trait that unites us in our common humanity. Because we all share these feelings that we have in common: hope, fear, shame, love. But we don't want to assume that we know what somebody else is feeling, so we don't want to project. And the issue in the workplace, if you want to create connection, is it turns out there's research on this, that the higher up you climb in the hierarchy, the less likely you are to empathize with people.
Yes.
Okay. So the hack that I like to talk about, there's two of them. When you're in presence with somebody who's telling you something that's kind of emotionally laden or important to them, silence is golden. We're like allergic to silence, especially in the Western Hemisphere in North America. And the more you give space to silence, the more opportunity it is for somebody to actually share more. Because when somebody's sharing something big to them, they're not even noticing the silence. It's uncomfortable for us to bear witness to silence, but it gives them a chance to catch up with what they're thinking about, and they might divulge even more. So welcome some silence, lean into that discomfort. That's the first one. And the second one is something that therapists have been taught to do, social workers, even teachers to a certain extent, and that is to reflect back. So you say a sentence and I reflect back the 3 or 4 words that you just said, that you just ended the sentence with. Now, it seems robotic to us to do that. It seems kind of mechanical. But to the person who's just been speaking, when they hear their own words reflected back, it feels like they have been heard. It feels like you're really with them listening. So those are the 2 fastest ways that I know to create connection.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, quick question. How do you reach leaders with this? Like, how do you get them to buy into this, into this process, into what you're talking about here? Because it's a little selfish of a question because, all of us here probably coach leaders, and I just want this in my tool bag. I just want some extra tools here to put in my tool bag when I'm talking to people, and this is a problem. People struggle with this.
Yeah.
Like, so what's like your number one trick to like get them to see what you're talking about here and get a little breakthrough?
So will you indulge an anecdote, like a story, to make the case? All right. So I talk about it often because I think it's powerful, because I think everybody can relate. One day, many years ago, I was in a long lineup to send a parcel in the mail. And this is before we all had cell phones to distract us. So it took half hour during the holiday seasons to get to the counter. And the woman who greeted me was rude, like really, really rude. And it was so offensive, and I was so taken aback that I wanted to like call her out on it. Instead, because I just at the time was learning about the neuroscience of empathy and that we could become more empathic with practice, I had a nanosecond reflex to just breathe, look at her in the eye and ask, "Are you okay?" And she responded by saying, I've been working double shifts for 2 weeks straight. My son's at home with a fever. I am getting sick. It's 3 PM. I haven't had lunch. And the tears started falling. And I reached across the counter and we were holding hands. I hated this woman 10 seconds earlier. And then all of a sudden I had nothing but gushing empathy for her. So empathy is a powerful unifier across distance and divide of all sorts, right? And we need that more than ever in the world that we're living in now. But how do you make the case to business leaders? And I've spoken to law firms and investment companies and even defense contractors, and everybody's like, well, we're a high performance company, right, and all of this nice stuff is going to get in the way. And I say, you know what? If you have a culture in your workplace where social capital is high, guess what happens? Communication gets better, trust goes through the roof, innovation, presenteeism goes away, absenteeism goes away. Like all of these bottom line metrics that we care about are supported by empathic culture. So I just make the business case.
And if you need a review of it, go to the TEDx talk that Anita has called Empathy is Our Superpower. And I think that's a great way to bring superpowers together in leadership as well. Reading the book Purposeful Empathy will allow us to tap into that superpower and for personal, organizational, and social change. I'm a big fan. My superpower is consistency, but second to that would be empathy and compassion, sympathy, no pity here. We appreciate you, Anita. Come back again. Please join us. And we'll look forward to next time we're up north to see what else is going on there in Quebec. So thanks for joining us. Stay warm. Winter is coming. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye. Pleasure was all mine.
You're amazing. All right. One of my favorite superpowers, empathy. I'll still stick to consistency as well. And I know you two understand that. Our next guest, Jay Connor, is in the house. And we have Jay here. He's a commercial real estate developer, private money expert, international speaker, best-selling author, and CEO of Connor Marketing Group. He's a man of many talents. And everyone, if you want to get his money guide, it's invaluable. Go to jayconnor.com/money guide. Welcome, Jay. We want to talk money now.
You're on mute, I think, Jay.
Or low. I think his volume's low. I barely hear it.
You look excited.
Can you? Oh man, Deuce drop. So we'll get Jay back on here and jayconnor.com. Like I said, the money guide. I want to ask him, and I'm going to preset it maybe for you. You know, empathy is. She mentioned that the spectrum from pity to sympathy to compassion to empathy, and we didn't have enough time. We'll ask her next time. But do you see that progression as well? And if so, I'd love for a little bit of insight. Oh, here's Jay. Jay, can we hear you?
Oh, yes. Can you hear me?
No. Vaguely, no. There's always audio. I'm here at Ryan Pineda's office, and we were joking around. They had 3 different microphones, and I said, you know, video you can handle because you can do B-roll and pictures and words, but you just can't get around bad audio. Can someone from my team help out Jay? Is our next guest here, and we'll swap them? Nope. All right. Can you help Gigi, Mike? Somebody help Jay.
Yeah, he's gonna drop off here.
Well, we're gonna do a lead in. So, Anita, I'm gonna actually. Can you put Benita back in here? I'll ask her the question. We're instead of guessing, let's just ask her.
Yeah.
I like the progress of. I think it was pity, sympathy, compassion, and empathy. Can you just explain the differences as it progresses up? Is there a common denominator of a spectrum of energy, or where is that progression from pity to empathy?
Well, I spoke about the pity is looking down on somebody. Sympathy is not that much better. There's a lot of East Coast, West Coast debate on which is the more powerful one, compassion or empathy. And I'll just share with you that I like both. All right. I welcome both in our lives. The reason I put empathy all the way at the end is that compassion is much like one form of empathy, which is known as affective empathy. It happens to our heart thanks to our mirror neurons. So if you watch somebody stub their toe and you wince, or if you watch some kid laughing and it just kind of puts you in a better mood, that's our mirror neurons firing in resonance. All right. Mm-hmm. And that's what compassion does, is what we feel what somebody is feeling. There's another form of empathy, which is why I give it a little leg up, and that is cognitive empathy, which is all about perspective taking. It's our capacity to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. And that's a choice that we make, and we can become better at it. So that's how I define the continuum.
It's interesting because a lot of people see, Blaine, but I was going to say,
go ahead.
They see sympathy as walking in someone else's shoes, but not feeling in someone else's shoes. So would that be a fair distinction?
Yes, and there's a very famous Brene Brown 4-minute video on viral that you can plug into your show notes to talk about that. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Blaine, go ahead.
That notion of being the cognitive connection. Yeah, my wife is going through some radiation therapy right now, and at the very beginning of it, it was unknown, and I made this comment to her. That must be very, very, very frightening for you. You must be, feeling a lot of, uncertainty and fear right now. And she just, just dropped in. And it wasn't that I was feeling what she was feeling, but there was a recognition that this situational dynamic, in the way that it was positioning her, had to have been in her mind frightening. I couldn't imagine it not being, and being able to articulate that, recognizing it, number one, but then articulating it, number two, made all the difference in the world.
Absolutely.
Just real quick. I was going to say, Blaine, but you must have been also very scared and uncertain.
Yeah.
Look at you. I was just going to say
that was going on as well. There was no question about that. Yeah.
And did you have trouble putting yourself in her shoes? Is that hard? Did you find that hard?
No, not really. Because I could imagine laying on the table, and I could actually paint that scenario for myself.
But it tends to be that we have the capacity to empathize with people who are like us or close to us, right? That's something that we have developed over time as a species. It's harder to empathize with people who are other, who look differently, eat differently, vote differently than us. And so the goal, I think, is to actually learn how to transcend this otherness and extend our capacity to empathize to larger groups of people. I think that's what's going to move the needle.
Yeah. Well, and I just thinking of it, since I love Blaine's wife so much, I was getting choked up and emotional because of the relativity that she has and Blaine has in my life. I was feeling it, even though there. But what was so interesting, Anita, what you just mentioned is something that I think is so important today because of the separation that exists, is that we need to appreciate our differences. And it's easier to appreciate the difference with relativity. And when that gets extended out to the unknown people, or even worse, the people that we feel have a different perspective, a different religion, philosophy, theory, spirituality, region, country, leaders, whatever it may be, that it's empathy actually that allows for appreciation of differences. And when your story to me resonated so much because there was a great separation between you and the person who was hating on you. And you were able to appreciate the difference in your attitudes, the difference in your perspective, and it brought a quick ability to bond. And I think there's so many lessons to learn. It's just, I think, to reiterate again why it's so important to prioritize learning about empathy. And there's no one like Anita to do that. So check out her TED Talk, the book. I know Max is here. We're going to keep this party moving because I got to go keynote this super summit and I got to stay on time, they told me, or you guys will be empathizing with me for not being on stage. So thank you again, Anita. We appreciate you. Max is in the house. And Maxime Proharov is here, and he's a co-founder of Platma. Welcome, Max. How are you?
Hello. So, thank you so much. I'm fine. I'm really appreciated to see you. I'm appreciated to be there, and let's see how it works.
Absolutely. I'm sure it'll work well. There's all type of automated platforms out there for small businesses, mid-sized businesses, and large businesses. And understanding what led you to create Platma as a business automation platform to allow them and to save and spend hundreds of dollars on their IT teams. What was it that motivated you or led you to build Platma?
Yeah, I think I motivated it more than 10 years ago when I began to create my something own application and understand that I need to create something which really help me to disrupt and don't use IT guys because they begin so expensive, so complicated, and so on and so on. And I focused to have a lot of experience and created my own company in Ukraine to create application and then gathering all my knowledge and use new technology AI, how to create a platform which really can help to create application and be more effectively and digitalize services without any engineers. And this is really motivated me because it's helped me to share the world that it's possible. And of course, you can be really understand that maybe only your business processes, how it need to works. And our system will use like ChatGPT conversation and create application which help you to digitalize some processes. And also very important to customize because your processes is not stable and you need to do it every time, every month and every week and so on.
Yeah, you mentioned the word customization, and that was the question that I was going to actually focus on. With your platform, how do you actually, because you've got a disparate group of, very different clients that you work with, how do you actually assist them in customizing the platform so that it actually serves them and it's not just a cookie cutter AI-driven platform?
How this works now, it's we created platform on 3 layers. First layer is for engineers. We use open source solution, Node.js and JavaScript. Second layer is for business analysis. It's like visual coding. You can create your business process by visual blocks like a Lego. And third block is our disruptive. We gathering all of this and use our AI Neuralink, which really understands all open source stuff which we have, and it's created a digital solution. Now we focused only in e-commerce, small and medium business entrepreneurs, because they already understand how work in the digital. They have clients and they have the problem. It's routine. It's every day is 80% of daily works. It's repeating. Can you create? I can digitalize it and can create like a robotics which help you to do these tasks without involved humanity.
So much of business is connecting with your audience and connecting with your ideal client. And my understanding of the audience here right now, they're all business owners. They're SME, SMB. They're business owners. They're founders. Like, tell us what your dream is for this, and like the number one problem you think you help solve.
Honestly, I think maybe next 2 years we will focus to create it like operational system for business, without any like problems, without any knowledge which understand. And it may be like entrepreneur take a question recording, and the system will create for him. Okay, we have knowledge all over the world how to fix your problem. Maybe let's use these business processes. Don't create it from scratch, because your business not like something disruptive, and you will not, you wouldn't to pay for this expertise and knowledge. Let's use this digital solution and customize for your specific specific business and specific niches. That's all. It's I imagine, which I think we will going next 2 years, because it's step by step. First of all, now we created base of applications, and our AI will create it and base of application without humans, and then our AI will create a new solution which really helps to entrepreneurs focus on their idea, but not on business and routine which he need to prepare it and so on.
Well, if you're looking for a business automation platform, look no more. Go to platma.com. Max has a customized, personalized solution for a variety of different businesses, and utilizing the automation and AI in order to create a more efficient, effective, and statistically successful business. Max, great having you on. We hope to see you. We are coming up north, so come see us in person. We love to meet you, and I can't wait to check out the platform, platma.com. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, we will cut him short, but we'll have him back, the amazing money man himself, Jay Connor. Let's see if his volume is up to snuff here. Jay, can we hear you?
Is this a little bit better, David?
Hey, that's awesome.
He has a voice.
Yeah.
Well,
hey, when money talks,
your amazing Max fixed it.
Yeah, man. Well, my amazing Max is amazing, but look, when money's talking, I want to be able to hear it, and you know how to talk money. You know where to get the money now, and you give a money guide to help people understand not only where and how to get money, but understanding the relationship with it as well. So I want to start there. How important is, regardless of your guide, the relationship that you have with money?
Well, relationship with money is paramount. You know, some people think that, well, it's interesting you asked this question, David. My wife, Carol Joy, and I, we went out to Texas last weekend, about 2 hours out of Dallas-Fort Worth. We live in Eastern North Carolina. And we went there for a little vacation. Her birthday was last Friday. And we were talking about one of her brothers. She's got 5 brothers. And this one particular brother, for years and years and years, had like no money. I mean, he was a school teacher, you know, wife stayed at home, 3 kids, no money. Well, now he's a pilot. He's making all this money. And unfortunately, he's never had to manage any money. And since he's now got money, he's like giving his money he's giving it away. It's like, I can't keep money. It's like a sin to keep any money. So how important is relationship with money as it comes to real estate investing? You know, I use private money using private money for our real estate deals, primarily single family houses. I mean, I've done commercial deals, condominium developments from the ground up, shopping center from the ground up, but primarily my focus since 2003 has been single family houses here in Eastern North Carolina. Well, my first 6 years of getting money for my deals, David, Blaine, Rhett, all I knew to do was go to the local bank, get on my hands and knees, put my hands underneath my chin, pull my skirt up for my banker to look at all my personal assets, give me a colonoscopy. And, you know, I'm begging and chasing and persuading and trying, you know, please fund my deal. Please fund my deal. And that's all I knew to do. Well, that worked for 6 years, 2003 to 2009. And let me tell you, if I'm lying, I'm dying. Sitting here at my desk, January 2009, I picked up my phone. Believe it or not, we actually have handsets here in North Carolina with cords attached to them. But I picked up my telephone and I called my banker that I'd had for 6 years. His name was Steve. And I said, Steve, I got these 2 deals under contract. And Steve, I mean, he'd been funding my deals for 6 years. And he said, I learned like that over the telephone. He said, Jay, we closed your line of credit here at the bank. I said, what? I said, what? What are you saying? I mean, have you ever heard anybody say anything? It's like it's not computing in your brain. I said, what are you talking about, Steve? We've been doing this for 6 years. He says, Jay, don't you know there's a global financial crisis going on right now? I said, no, but you just gave me a financial crisis for cutting me off. And so I hung up the phone, and David and Blaine and Red, I'm gonna share a quick little question. Right, I asked the power's in questions, and I asked myself a question that will fix any problem your audience has got. I don't care if it's financial, health, career, relationship. And here's the question I asked myself. I said, Jay, who? You know, it ain't how. I said, who do you know? I'm sorry, David. I made a tear roll down your leg right there.
Yeah, anyway. Well, I lost all my money when I called my private bank after 10 years, and they told me my $40 million line of credit was now limited to $1 million. That hurt.
And so here's the question I asked myself when my banker cut me off. I said, Jay, who do you know that can help you fix your problem? And by the way, guys, these people running around saying every problem's an opportunity. I want to throw up. I didn't have an opportunity. I had a problem. You know, I had a problem. And so, you know, when I asked myself, who do I know? I immediately thought of Jeff Blankenship, a dear friend of mine and Carol Joy's. He lived in Greensboro, North Carolina at the time. And I called him up. He was investing in real estate. I said, Jeff, and I told him what had happened with the banker. He said, well, Jay, welcome to the club. I said, what club is that? He said, the club of having your line of credit shut down to the bank. My bank just shut me down last week. I said, well, how you going to fund your real estate deals? He said, well, have you ever heard of private money? I said, no. By the way, he wasn't talking hard money. He weren't talking hard money. He's on doing business with individuals, human beings that are like breathing, you know. I said, no, I never heard of private money. He said, well, have you ever heard of self-directed IRAs and how people can take their existing private retirement accounts and move them over to a self-directed IRA company and loan out and get either tax deferred or tax-free income? I said, what in the world are you talking about? I'd never heard of that. So I shut down the phone, and let me tell you something, guys. I knew my friend Jeff had told me something. I went to studying private money. I went to studying self-directed IRAs and how people can do that. And I mean, I don't play in your all's world. You all like playing that $100 million stuff. But here, I mean, I'm underneath a rock here in Eastern North Carolina. In less than 90 days, I was able to raise $2,150,000, which that was a lot of money. I only had $1 million line of credit at the bank when Steve cut my knees off, you know. And so I raised a couple million in less than 90 days. But you know what's funny about this? And by the way, I didn't ask anybody for money. I did not ask anybody for money. And I've never pitched a deal. I've never pitched a deal in my life. So here's the secret. Here's the secret sauce right here. How to raise private money without ever asking anybody for money. You know, desperation has got a smell to it, right? Desperation.
Yeah,
I mean, people can smell when you're desperate. And you know, the worst time to be raising money, for goodness sakes, is when you need it for a deal. So what did I do? I separate the conversations. This is how we separate in North Carolina. We separate the conversation, right, between teaching. See, here's how I never asked for money since I got cut off. I put on my teacher hat, and my teacher hat says private money teacher. And I started just teaching people in my network, people I go to church with, at the Rotary Club, and you know, I started teaching people what private money was and how they can earn high rates of return safely and securely. So I got 47 private lenders right now funding my real estate deals. You know, here's what's funny about it. Not one of them had ever heard about private money until I put on my teacher hat. None of them had ever heard about self-directed IRAs. And here's what's even funnier than that. None of them 47 people even know what an accredited investor is, but some of them are, and they don't even know they are. Right?
All right, Jay, I got to cut you off. I got to cut you off for two reasons because I got to get on stage here. But I'm going to have you back, and I just want to tell you how grateful I am we got your microphone working because, man, we are missing out. There's so much more I want to learn, but I got to go cry before I get on stage because you should have seen my face when I walked into my private bank, and the first thing was, oh, well, he doesn't work here anywhere. I'm like, what do you mean my private banker of 10 years is living in New York and quit without telling me? And then two, when the person who's new said, and what is your name? I knew my life had changed forever. And private money is a lesson, and you are the teacher. We are going to cut you off only because of technical difficulties, and I have a tighter schedule than normal. But the professors and we want to have you back. We want to hear more lessons from the teacher. For now, though, just go to jayconner.com. Check out his free money guide, jayconner.com/money guide. I think he has stimulated enough of your interest that it's worthy of checking out. Let's get some pre-study. We'll have you back as soon as possible. Thank you for your patience with your technology. Thank God the mics are working because we'd have missed out on a cleanup hitter of no consequence. So thank you, Jay. We'll have you right back on.
All right. God bless you guys.
Thanks, Jay.
Nice.
That's wonderful.
Awesome. Jay made my day, and I'm glad I got a lesson in empathy and money. Real quick, takeaways of the day. I'll start with Blaine Bartlett. What's your takeaway of the day?
Real brief. I know you got to run. Connection is the answer here. Just find ways to be connected, whether it's being a private money teacher, whether it's through empathy, however it is, find a way to be connected because that's how life ends up working.
I got to learn how to separate.
Yeah.
And, but I've got to go pick up Anita's book. I mean, Purposeful Empathy is a book you should pick up. I know I'm going to pick it up now. So that's my lesson.
I love her. Yeah, my lesson is the investment comes in many different clothes. And I never thought of franchising as a way of taking an investment. Obviously, Jay aligned with that as well. Max as well, with making an investment in yourself and in your small business. And then, looking at Anita, empathy is an investment in others. And I just have a different perspective of investment from our four friends today. I'm glad that you all have invested, you, Rhett, and Blaine, in me and the show for so many episodes and invested in me and myself as a leader. It takes leaders to teach leaders, and both of you are great mentors of mine. BlaineBartlett.com, Rhett Powers. Thanks for joining us. We'll have you right back on Office Hours. God bless both of you.
Thanks, buddy. Knock them alive.
Thank you. I will knock them alive. Let's stay alive and appreciate our lives. All right, Gigi, that's we're in Las Vegas. Come and see us. We got a meetup, holding court. We are on stage in less than an hour, so I got to jump. We'll be in LA for Masterminds VIP dinners. Come and join us there. And in New York City, we already got a big lineup. Gail King, Ja Rule, Victor Cruz, and many, many more. We are celebrating October 7th with Peace, our nomination second year in a row of the Nobel Peace Prize with Junior Achievement. Come and join all of us, celebrities, athletes, and entertainers, hanging out in all 3 cities, Vegas, LA, and New York. All you got to do is reach out to me, 949-298-2905. Be alerted in the 200 cities we're in. Email me, david@dmeltzer.com. Remember, be kind to your future self and do good deeds. We'll see you soon. God bless all of you. Thank you.